To follow along with me in the next several blog posts, you'll need to get the book A Path with Heart by Jack Kornfield. I also suggest that you read the chapters before you listen to these audio blogs. This book was very important to me early on in my soul journey, and so I intend to share it with you. My intention is to focus on each chapter, lifting out what I believe to be the critical points and making some distinctions with some Jungian terminology. Kornfield, like so many disillusioned baby boomers who fled the U.S. to the Himalayas for spiritual enlightenment, found out upon his return that becoming a Buddhist monk did not prepare him for emotional or relational life back in the U.S. Carl Jung noted early on in his relationship with the Eastern tradition that it's not a good idea to slap Eastern philosophy on top of Western psyche. The main reason, as I see it, is the ego is developed more as a we in the East and a me in the West. However, Jack Kornfield is one who successfully integrated the Eastern philosophy with the Western psychological ideas, and in my opinion, spiritual development and psychological development go hand in hand, which is why Western psychology, with its emphasis on ego development, needs Eastern philosophy with its focus on the eternal self, or what I call soul. Jungian psychology is the bridge between ego and soul, where the apex of individuation, or the soul journey, is the ego, self, or soul axis. Or said differently, the dialogical relationship between the earthly ego and the heavenly soul. Chapter 1. Did I love well? The heart is used in Eastern traditions as a metaphor for soul. It is often said the heart is the seat of the soul. So the question is, did I live a life with or in soul? Most spiritual traditions point to love as the penultimate, but love is not an achievement or a possession. True love is an essence. One abides with it, or said differently, allows it into their heart. In order to really get at the essence of love, let's turn to a depth psychologist that I like very much, Daphne Rose Kingma. Her book, The Future of Love, I recommend highly, and I will read from her opening paragraphs. A Renaissance of Love. Love is a mighty power. It is light. It is the energy of life. It brings us into life and sustains us while we live and breathe. Love is an energy, not a substance. It is essence, not matter. Love is mysterious and beautiful. It makes us happy, gives us hope, allows us to believe that the impossible can happen. Love is a divine energy that steps into human circumstances, a timeless essence that enters time. It is older, wiser, finer, truer, sweeter, and more radiant than any human being. It is what makes us wise, fine, true, sweet, and radiant. It is the best, the essence of God in us. And it is love, this exquisite energy with which we connect when we first enter into the human experience we call a relationship. We see this energy in one another's eyes, we feel it in our bodies, and we know that something bigger than life has stepped into our lives to capture our attention. It is this highly charged, buoyant, transcendent, delicious feeling and the longing for more, for a lifetime of it, that propels us into relationships. Relationships are the endless interplay of this energy of love and all that occurs in our daily life. Back to Jack Kornfield, he opens. In undertaking a spiritual life, what matters is simple. We must make certain our path is connected with our heart. In the end, spiritual life is not a process of seeking or gaining some extraordinary condition or special power. In fact, such seeking can take us away from ourselves. If we are not careful, we can easily find the greatest failures of our modern society, its ambition, materialism, and individual isolation repeated in our spiritual life. The teachings in this book are about finding such a path with heart, about understanding a path that transforms and touches us in the center of our being. To do so is to find a way of practice that allows us to live in the world wholly and fully from our heart. On page 12, Kornfield brings to our attention the capacity to speak with our heart directly, saying that most ancient cultures knew this. We can actually, he says, converse with our heart as if it were a good friend. He goes on to say, in modern life, we have become so busy with our daily affairs and thoughts that we have forgotten this essential art of taking time to converse with our heart. When we ask it about our current path, we must look at the values we have chosen to live by. Where do we put our time, our strength, our creativity, our love? We must look at our life without sentimentality, exaggeration, or idealism. Does what we are choosing to reflect what we most deeply value? These are critical questions, and I urge you to take the time now to think through them and chart how you're spending your time, your strength, and your love, and see if that's what you truly value, if that's what your soul is truly valuing. I do want to make this point that while Kornfield brings this up in Chapter 1, the ability to speak with soul directly, I would say the very point of this book is to learn to distinguish between the ego voices and from the intuitive voice of soul or heart. So don't feel bad if you can't hear that voice at this point in your journey. On page 13, Kornfield asks you, as a typical Buddhist would, to reflect on your death. When I first came across these ideas, they made no sense to me. But with the distinction of ego death, which opens the way for the rebirth of the soul, these ideas do come into focus. So keep that in mind as you go through the practice that he recommends on page 13. Another important Buddhist tradition is the idea of letting go. And again, it's important to put that in distinction, or put that in perspective, if you will, of ego letting go. Ego gains its identity through its attachments. So the idea of letting go is a way in which to keep digging through the depths to find the very essence of your soul. And I'd like to say that this is a practice that you don't do once and then move on to something else. It's a practice that you do every day of your life. Kornfield takes this idea of attachment into the material world by bringing our attention to the fact that we are not our possessions. He ends this chapter with the idea of connecting with our heart or our soul through our creative gifts. On page 17, he says, a path with heart will also include our unique gifts and creativity. The outer expression of our heart may be to write books, to build buildings, to create ways for people to serve one another. It may be to teach or to garden or to serve food or play music. Whatever we choose, the creations of our life must be grounded in our hearts. Our love is the source of all energy to create and connect. I just want to say that again. Our love is the source of all energy to create and connect. If we act without a connection to the heart, even in the greatest things in our life, can become dried up, meaningless, or barren. The longing for love and the movement of love is underneath all our activities. The happiness we discover in life is not about possessing or owning or even understanding. Instead, it is the discovery of this capacity to love, to have a loving, free, and wise relationship with all of life. So the point of the chapter is, did I love well? Hopefully there's enough pointing out instructions here for you to reflect on that and also make that the point of your life. Now let's get to the meditation, a meditation on loving kindness. The following meditation is a 2,500-year-old practice that uses repeated phrases, image, and feelings to evoke loving kindness and friendliness towards oneself and other. Sit in a comfortable fashion, let your body relax, and be at rest. As best you can, let your mind be quiet, letting go of plans and preoccupations. Then begin to recite inwardly the following phrases directed to yourself. You begin with yourself because without loving yourself, it is almost impossible to love others. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. Repeat. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. And you continue to repeat these phrases. Or find an exact phrase that best opens your heart to loving kindness. Practice this meditation repeatedly for another number of weeks until the sense of loving kindness for yourself grows. Thank you.